This is just a quick tutorial based on someone asking where to get started with Blender. It's something I intend to do in a bit more detail for my local community group, so they can, if they're interested in 3D, they can get into Blender. But I'll just quickly blat through it on this, and hopefully it'll give you some pointers as to what I meant on the forum when I said you just start with a box, build a table and take it from there. Now, first things first, in my preferences, in the input, I use a left mouse click select because I come from Lightwave 3D, so I'm just comfortable using the left mouse. Add-ons, I always make sure I'm using loop tools because I use one of the features in that extensively. If you click that, make sure you choose Save User Settings, because simply clicking it'll work for this session of Blender, but we'll forget it for the next version. Likewise, if you assign yourself a shortcut, which I have done, if I just do a Shift A and I add a cube, go into edit mode, I do a W, and this for the specials menu there's the loop tools. As you can see, I use circle a lot, so I've assigned it a shortcut. Very easy to assign a shortcut, and you just highlight the one you want, right mouse button, choose add shortcut, and then you just hover over there, it says press a key, and you just press the key you want in order to do it. I've assigned that to Alt W because I knew it wasn't something that was being used, and I'll show you why I use that a lot in a minute. Right, so go back into object mode. There are many ways you can go about this. You can build the table top and table legs as separate objects, or you can build them as one. Depends what you want to do. I'm just going to treat it, building it as one. And I'm also going to be using the mirror modifier to basically make my life simpler. So yeah, one thing to watch out for, if I scale this on the Z-axis and I bring that down to the, say, scale it, then bring it a bit further down. Oh, by the way, when you're scaling, if you start there and press scale, you've not got much to play with, because if I scale now on the Z, you can see I'm getting massive reaction because I'm right close to there. However, I get my mouse over there and press S to scale Z, I get a much gradual thing. Hold shift and I can get an even more gradual one. So that's just something to be aware of. The same goes for when you're rotating. The closer to the center you are, the faster the rotation. So I tend to start around here, scale Z, get like that. Okay, now I'll just duplicate this object, so Shift D, hit escape, M, move that to a layer here, then go to that layer. Now what I'm going to do here is go Object, Apply, Scale. A quicker way of doing that is to choose Control A and choose Scale. Depending on if you've got pie menus active, you'll either get that or you'll get a flat menu, but just make sure you choose Scale. And the reason for that is if I then go into Edit mode, which again I'm using pie menus, so I know Tab 8 will jump me into Edit mode, and you can just choose it from this menu if you want. And then I select these edges and I do a Control B, and you can see I get a nice bevel there. It's very pretty. Right, now if I come out of object mode into object mode, go into the other one where I haven't applied the scale, go back into edit mode, and I select those same edges, do a Control B. As you can see, it's way off. Now the reason for that is it's trying to bevel that based on what the bevel would be if it was at its original full size. And if I come out of that, you can see that although they have the same dimensions, you can see that that scale is 1 and that scale is 0.057, and so the bevel is trying to react off that. So to reset that again, Set the scale to 1. It's one thing to be aware in mind, don't confuse the scale with the dimensions. Go into edit mode. Now if I control B, then there you go. And to alter the segments, once you've clicked accept, you can either do it here, or you can do the plus and minus keys on the numpad if you haven't accepted it. So if I undo that, I do control B, and now I've not clicked to accept this bevel yet, it's still moving, but I can plus and minus on the numpad to alter the number of segments, or I can click once so I can see these offsets, and then I can adjust it, and then you can adjust these manually. So that's your profile that I'm changing there. I can go in or out, so you can scoop that in if you want. So 0.5 profile is normal. You can alter the number of segments, or you can alter the amount of the bevel. So you can either do it with one click and do that, or you can do it while you're doing the bevel. Bear in mind though, if you then move away from that and you do something else like a G, say you can no longer alter your bevel. Oh, apparently you can. If you come out and go back into object mode, you can't. Oh, I've just learned something new. Anyway, I wouldn't rely on that. I would stick to doing it when you actually make the action. So that's just something to bear in mind with your scale. So, right, delete these. And we'll go back to... I'll just get rid of these because these were a prior test. Right, so add a cube, scale on the Z, or you can type in a number 0.05. Do a Control A and 6 to lock that scale in. Right, now go into edit mode. What I'll do here is just do a W, subdivide once, hold Alt, click on that line there, do Control X to delete it, whilst maintaining the outer ones. If you don't do Control X and you just press delete, then you lose the faces. Or if you do a Control X, it keeps the faces but removes that. And the reason I've done this is if I go into wireframe mode, choose points, C, I can select all these points here, right click the C, and delete the vertices, and that leaves me with a quarter of a table. I can add a mirror modifier on the X and the Y, add clip in, go back into solid view, and you now can deal with just 1/4 of the whole thing and make sure it works. So if I then select this face, I can pull that face in and it alters the width of the table. Likewise, if I do that face, I can alter the depth of the table. So I select that face. Now what I want to do now is create the leg. In order to do that, go over to the modifier, turn those off, do a Shift D, hit Escape, S for scale, change the pivot point to the immediate point, scale in. Then I can reactivate that. If I don't do that, I can't move this away from here because it would be clipped. I'll show you what I mean. If I just hide that one and I do a Shift D now and Escape, and I scale, as you can see it's scaling there, and I can't physically move the rescaled object away from there unless I turn that off. Then I can. Well, I can't actually, so do delete that so you can turn those back on. Do Alt H to unhide that one, move it along, scale on the Y, so I've just pressed the Y there, doesn't show up in the keys, but I've just pressed a Y to restrict it to that. Then I'll do a G and Shift Z, so I'm only moving down X and Y, so I get that roughly where I want it. Now what I can do is press E, pull down, and there's my table leg. L to select everything, S, Shift Z, and I can scale on everything but the size, and just move that where I want it, and scale that on the X. That's a bit much on the X, it's more like when I'm doing it. Control 7 to look underneath, G to move, and because I'm in this view it'll only move based on this angle. If I do that it will move in 3 dimensions, but if it's in an orthographic view, top or Control 7 for the bottom, then it'll only react on those 2 planes, in this case the X and the Y. If it's a front view it'll react on the X and the Z side, Y and Z. So good to get to grips with flicking between those. So anyway, there's your legs. Now what I'll do now is I'll Shift H to hide everything. Select that face, select that, delete faces. Alt H to unhide everything. And then I can select this, or just A8, deselect everything. Control R, go over one of these edges and you'll get a thing. Click once, hit return. Control B will allow you to effectively bevel that. I bevel it with 1 segment. Then go select boundary loop, which I've got assigned to a hotkey. That says Shift quotes, it's actually Shift tilde, but for some reason it shows up as quotes in Blender. That's now selected the outer boundary, in other words those 2 things. I can then Control B them, make sure again it's only 1 segment. Just get that a little bit of a thing. Go to face, Alt click on that edge there, scale Shift Z, like that, and then if I decide I want that smaller I can do Control plus and I could scale that, but the danger with that is you end up scaling that as well, so what I'm more likely to do is Alt click there, drag that down, Alt click there, drag that up. If you're having trouble, just hit the numpad full stop key, that zooms straight into what you've selected. Once you've done that it'll also rotate around it if you've got your settings right. If I want to change the angle of this bottom one, I can just do an A8 to deselect everything, Alt click on that edge rather than face, and then just move that up. So immediately if I go back into object mode, you've got the startings of a basic table. Again, already just working from a cube, nothing fancy. So what I can do now, I can Shift D that, hit escape, move that to the next layer, go to the next layer, go into edit mode, and now I can work on this incarnation. Now I've decided, I've started with that, but I actually want to have a round leg. So I can Alt click. Actually I can just do a Control R down the middle of that. Control R down the middle of that. Control R down the middle of that. And Control R down the middle of that. I can select, Alt click that, Shift Alt click, Shift Alt click, Shift Alt click, Shift Alt click, Shift Alt click. Oh, don't want that one. I want that one. Or that one. Oh, go away. I want that one. Everywhere but what I want. Alright, well we'll stick with that then. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Shift H. There we go. So select that, Alt Shift, Alt Shift click, Alt Shift click, Alt Shift click. W, Loop Tools, Circle. Now have a round leg. Now I want to make this look a bit fancier, so do a Control R. In the middle of that, click Return, scale that up. Doesn't look very round, does it? Control B. Drag that out, increase the number of segments. Alt H, go back out into object mode. Click on smoothing. You've now got a round leg. We just need to tidy this up. What I do for that, go into your data, click Auto Smooth, change that to 60. Then I can go back into edit mode and I can start marking things as sharp. So Alt click, Alt click, Alt click, Alt click. Now if I'm doing this and I'm doing Alt click and I can't get to this one, turn your manipulator off for a bit. Makes it easier to do, and then you can just turn it back on if you need to. Do a Control E, mark sharp. Increase your mean weight and mean bevel as well if you want. So now you've got a nice one there. And then you can select that. You can do a Control B. Take it down. Add one. Select that. Scale in. Alt click. Shift Alt click. Control E. Mark sharp. And we can select that. Shift select that. Control B. Add a nice bevel. Select boundary loop, Control E, mark sharp, Alt click that, Control B, give yourself a nice corner, add a few segments. Come back into object mode, and there you are, you're getting a nice table. Now what you can do now is you can start adding things like rails. So I go back into edit mode, I'll do a Shift A, and I'll add a cube, scale 0.1. I'll switch manipulator on so I can see what I'm doing. Scale X, want it nice and thin, scale Z. So I'm going to wireframe mode, going to the top. Okay, I'm going to need to turn that off, aren't I? Turn that off. G, move them along. I can turn it back on now. So, okay, 7. G, move that in. So it'll be about there. Move it down. Go into solid view. Just push it in to make sure it's secure. Shift H to hide everything. We don't actually need those end pieces. Select them. Delete the faces. Alt H. Select that. Control L. Alright, okay, so we'll have these edges. So Alt click that to select that edge loop. Just keep dragging it and the mirror will pull it in. So that's that. Then we can do Control R. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should do. Then I can select that and that. Push them in. I can select that, do a Control B. So there we are, that's nice. Select that, Shift select that, Control B. Give that a nice curve. And just select that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge. Control E, mark sharp. Come out. And there you've got a nice thing. So again, turn them off. Go into edit mode. Select all of that. Shift D escape. RZ -90. Go into wireframe 7G. Move it to where you want. Turn that back on. Now when you move, you see it, you can move it away from the middle, but it won't move any further than the middle, so be about that. And so now if I select that line, I can't move that line anymore, it's locked. Back into solid mode, and then we can select that, and then Shift L, then L select that, Shift D escape, drag that up to about there, say, select faces, select that face, and that face, move those up a little, select that face and that face, move those down a little, L to select everything, L to select everything, 1, just drag those up, and actually we'll drag those down a bit further. What I'm doing here is grabbing the very tip of the manipulator that allows me to move things in a direct axis. So, and then go back into object view, and there you are. All that based from that, which was based from a simple cube. And as you can see, all I've been using there is bevel, Control R, E to extrude, loop cuts, and Alt W, which was the loop tool circle. A bit of scaling, nothing dramatic, but yeah, you can take that as far as you like. You could do things like you could take that and you can go into edit mode. You could do that. You could add your loop cuts here like that. And what you can do is you can just select them two and just to W loop tools circle. And then you can say select them, push them up a bit, and do the same on them, select them again, turn the manipulator off if it's in your way, shift click in here. Now instead of using the manipulator, I know I want to go down, so I just GZ, and that just pushes that down. And then I can just Control R, do that, tighten it off, Control R, do that to tighten it off. And again I can Control R here, scale, Control B, depending on whether I want it bigger or not. Go back into object mode, smooth, and once again you can then do things like go back into edit mode and alt click on that loop, alt click on that loop, and mark the seams as sharp. And because you're using the modifier, you can actually check the result of it there, so I can select that loop, should I just select that loop, Control E, mark sharp. And maybe add a loop cut there. Dot to zoom in, zoom out, Control R. Now if I want to get it to react more with I can press E now, then F, and it flips between the two choices. So there we go. Happy with that. And then again, go into the edges, select these edges. And do Control E and mark sharp. Let me increase 1, bevel weight 1 just for the sake of it. I need to do those as well. I always miss those out. Control E, mark sharp. Right. Same there. Shift click. So table looks a mess, so the easiest way with that, select face, select that, select boundary loop, mark sharp. I'm going to actually put a bevel to that, so Control Z on that actually, and I'll stick a bevel on this. So just select those two edges, Control B. Just a subtle one this time. And then select that edge and Control B. And a subtle one there. So again, select the boundary, mark sharp. And I could alt click that and mark that sharp as well. And alt click that and mark that sharp as well. Come out, and there again is a different version of the table. So you can basically carry on playing, doing all sorts of that. So there's your table. Take exactly what I've been doing there. Try a chair. Once you've got the chair and table, try a bookcase. Try a cabinet. And each time you do it, each time you become more familiar with the tools, it becomes easier to actually model more complex things. And again, if you add stuff to your arsenal in terms of tools and add-ons, then it all speeds up the workflow. I hope this has been of some help.